Javelins, freelancers, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to AnthemCast. I am but one of your merry hosts this evening, this morning, this afternoon, or wherever the hell you are in the world right now. I am Ogaz, and of course, joining me as usual, the man on the other side of the world, the British freelancer. Now, I wonder, will they have a Union Jack? I'm thinking like an Austin Powers skin for you, my friend. Binary Numb, how are you, sir?
Well, apart from feeling like a tech turd, I'm good.
Tech turd. I like that. Tech turd.
Tech turd.
That can work.
Oh, man. Yeah, no.
Why are you feeling like a tech turd?
Well, I thought I had everything sorted, but no. My PC broke this morning, so I had to rebuild quickly, and yeah, I pressed the wrong buttons. I failed. I'm sorry. But I'm good. I spent my week in Prague. I was in Prague for the week, so I was in the Czech Republic for work, which is actually pretty cool. Beautiful country. I was slightly surprised at how modern the country is. I was sort of. This is a very British thing. This is a very stupid British thing.
Because of the architecture, like the traditional.
Yeah, I was thinking. Well, I was thinking, you fly in. It's a little bit like Spain or Italy, right? It's dusty roads But it's not, right? There was like tarmac, there were sidewalks, pavements, there was like modern, it was just a modern city, right? I could have been in London. It was amazing. But some of the architecture of the buildings was absolutely incredible. Yeah, absolutely mental. And as you imagine, we were there for a work night, so we definitely got to see some of the more party sordid sites as well, which was pretty cool. And then I went shooting. So I did not realise that the Czech Republic is like fully allows for you to have like carry concealed weapons and stuff. It was like mental. I didn't realise they were like that. But we got to shoot some AKs, some AR-15s, Glocks, and all sorts. Yeah, it's great.
You shared a picture, and I thought that picture was you playing paintball. So this was not paintball.
No. Actually, let me get the image up. Yeah, see, I'll just share the image. Yeah, no, this was
that picture, and I'm like, oh wait, Binary's being.
Yeah, I'll put it on stream. Yeah. So we got to play. So I got to play with. So I got to shoot the ACR, Scorpion, M4, AR-15. It was a 44 Magnum, AK-47, the RPK as well. There was a shotgun. There was a P10 handgun, and we also got to shoot the SVD Dragunov sniper rifle.
You're not right. You're not lying. Holy crap!
No. It was 10 guns in total, and we got to shoot. It was about 10 rounds in each one. It was really good. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
You can kind of see why I thought you were taking the mickey out of me, because if you look at that picture, you're all standing like in a sound booth?
It's because it's an underground, so so it's underground. So what they do is
stop the echo.
The echo and everything like that. They've just put everything. The firing range itself, I've got loads of videos. The firing range itself was brick, but back here where we were all standing, and we had air defenders and everything like that. It was pretty cool.
I think it's because the room with the padding and just the guns and the lighting, it just makes everything in that picture looks plastic. Like it just looks like you're holding toys.
But I tell you what, holding those guns, a lot of them do feel like toys. Right, the AR-15,
right.
Literally, you get more kickback out of a Nerf gun than you do out of an AR-15. I think the worst gun was the Magnum. I didn't enjoy that at all. Like that's just a hand cannon. Like there is no way that you're hitting anything outside of 10 feet with that thing. Like the kickback is just ridiculous. The M4 was pretty impressive, but I think my favourite was the Scorpion ACR. Like that thing was just. That was incredible. Like you got a nice amount of kickback, but yeah, it was cool. It was really good. So it was a fun trip, and that was for work too, which was great.
And whilst you're abroad, of course, the YouTubes have been melting. And if you haven't been looking at the some of the numbers, I'm a bit of a social geek. I do like to look at the numbers of what's going on right now, and holy crap, the response video from Eminem taking the diss out of Machine Gun Kelly in response to a diss that he did about a week and a half ago. That thing hit 28 million, I think, in 5 hours. 28 million views and 2.3 million likes. I know for some of you, you might be turning off at that, But if Anthem could get anything close to that kind of traction, holy shit.
There's a lot of views.
You know, to give you an idea, that would only be probably second to something like, and it's going to sound strange, but I think there's a Taylor Swift song, I think, that only has a similar rapidity in terms of traction in a 24-hour time frame. So that thing is very interesting. If we can see that kind of as an exciting activity on an Anthem engagement, I think BioWare will be very, very happy.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think anybody would be happy with that type of traction. Jesus.
Hey, maybe John Warner has to write a rap diss track. Who would he diss, though? Who would BioWare? No, that wouldn't work. No, fortunately, that sort of thing's not part of that community, isn't it? Like it's actually quite great. If you notice, when Spider-Man launched in the last few weeks, we really got to see a lot of the devs shine, and I think even John posted a picture of him playing Spidey.
I bought Spider-Man. I said I wasn't going to buy it, and I bought it.
Oh, dude,
it's fucking great. I thought it was good. I was like, no way am I buying this game. Like, I can't do it, and I bought it, and I'm like, damn it, it's so good. It was really good. Yeah. I feel a lesser person.
Yeah, I'm not so convinced. I had to give it a bit more time, I think. But I've given it about 2-3 hours, and just maybe 3 or 4 hours, but not long. But yeah, maybe the action genre is kind of. I think I just need some Anthem. I need some Division, Anthem, Destiny. I don't know, the constant R2 hitting for that web sling to fly across buildings. I don't know. I kind of feel like it's just holding my hand too much. I need some more control.
I get you. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and then what an intro though. Holy crap, that tutorial is like it teaches you half the game in that first mission. It just seems to ramp up extremely quickly, far quicker than I remember any previous Insomniac game.
Yeah, very good. Well, I'm liking the story. I'm up about 5 hours in now, and I'm liking the story development stuff. It's pretty good.
Nice. And what of Anthem? In the last week since we last spoke, there's been not a lot of conversations outside of the typical tweets that we've come familiar with. There's been a few people diving into the website. Again, we mentioned last week that there's some pearls of wisdom on many parts of the website, in particular profiles about the Javelin suits and character profiles about a few things. One of them, I think, that stood out to us was, I guess, the interview. There was actually an interview with Nick Tarabay, of course, who was Halleck. And I think last time we probably spoke about Halleck Binary, that was probably the PAX panel.
It was the PAX panel. That's right. Yeah. He was crazy New Zealand man. Yep.
he was keen to make himself heard. There's no doubt about that. But he made a really interesting quote in this article. It's on the EA site. And he started to talk about some elements of Halleck. But if you're in the comments and I'd be interested to hear where you guys are sitting with Halleck right now. Like, what's your take on Halleck? What are you looking forward to about Halleck? Because Nick said, and I quote in this interview, I remember the last day we were filming. So that gives you a bit of insight. So it looks like everything in terms of the campaign, at least from what we think with the story, is finished. I mean, the capture, the motion capture, and the audio, at least in terms of the acting environment, has, from what we know, at least been completed.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is, I mean, it's fair. Where are we now? September? We're not far out from going gold, really, are we? Good Lord, February's launch. There's not a lot of time.
No, there is not a lot of time. We're at 5 months now, so 5.5, almost 5.5 months.
Holy crap!
We're not far away from it. They'll be going gold in 2 months.
Do you remember? Yeah. Did you remember when you jumped online after the E3 27 announcement and created this little Twitter account called the Anthem Universe? You might recall doing that.
I do. Man, that was 2 years. That's almost a year and a half ago. So yeah, time is flying. I'm getting old. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's been a journey.
it has, and we're at a point now where we're talking about this kind of stuff, voice actors and so forth. But the quote was interesting because he said the journey of each character, the history between the characters, the history between the goals they're going after, and the cost of getting there. We felt it. Sometimes when you see heroes like Superman, for instance, he's so good it's kind of boring. In this one, you'll see character flaws. Even though they're good people, you'll see them make mistakes. You'll see how these mistakes cost them and what it does to their relationships, which is something that happens in everyday life between people. That's a hell of an answer. Did he answer it exactly like that?
I probably
It's
don't.
very,
It's very, very well written. Well, it was off the cuff. The guy's a fucking lyrical genius, man.
it's very articulate. I really, but I mean, I mean, did you get the vibe? I mean, I got the vibe that in the, initially that Halleck would play, obviously a role in mentoring us or some sort of, senior javelin
I
mentoring.
think it's
But were you
interesting.
getting?
I think
Yeah.
it's fascinating that games are starting now to really push NPC characterizations as main protagonists in the game.
Mm,
You start, you saw it with Destiny, right? Where Destiny, as a guardian, you were not the main protagonist in the game. Your ghost was, and then you had lead NPCs in Cade, and
mm,
Zahala, as well. And you're starting to see more of these games where that becomes a thing, like Division 2. You were a voiceless agent, effectively, really, right? You took on the body, and everybody around you was voice and vote visualized. So we know that obviously our freelancer is going to have some level of voice, but they're
mm,
pushing the same roles in the same way that they're making, and they're zoning in on specific storyline characters that you're going to have the most interaction with. And I think obviously Halleck being the one that's been highlighted the most is probably going to be the one that we need to be bought into the most to enjoy the
mm,
story arc that we're going to experience the most. He's going to be probably our main companion through that whole thing. So they're trying to, I think by having Nick at the front line and Halleck at the front line, they're definitely pushing Halleck down our throats, because that was probably a bad terminology, not pushing him down our throats, right? But making us experience the most of him, so he's the most familiar when we come to actually put the game into the console and start playing it. We're going
mm.
to, he's going to be the one that we feel most familiar with. And more games are starting to go this route, which is interesting, and I'm all on board with it. It's just what I hope is that Halleck is still going to have some surprises for us, right? I think that's the thing is, we know who these characters are, but we play the story for those Anthem moments, I guess, or those Division moments, or those Destiny moments, Dragon Age moments, right, where we aren't necessarily so invested into these characters. So I really hope Halleck fucks us over in some way, right? There is some turmoil, right? There's this turning point where we're like, we don't like you no more. But then he wins us back. There could be those type of moments, and I hope there are. Um, they,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like your comparison. So you're kind of saying that, for lack of a better term, and NGEX in our Discord community has made reference to this as well in the past, and that's because we're talking about discord.anthemuniverse.com. If you haven't joined, do jump in and meet some amazing people in the community. Amazing people like the very guys chatting away in the Twitch right now, and that's of course Dazelle, Alam Sinner, NGEX, and a few of the other guys that have been chatting away. But NGEX in particular made some conversations. We're actually talking about Halo for a while there, and about Guilty Spark, if you recall, 343 Guilty Spark being that guide, and we know that of course Bungie emulated that with the with that same, I guess, as you say, tool in Destiny.
yeah.
So are you kind of implying that really Halleck is almost the next best thing, or at least the equivalence to what those guys provide you in Destiny, but a more human face to it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what they're trying to push with it, right? They're trying to create some level of familiarity, some level of companionship, and some level of already some empathy towards the characters. So when you do load into the game, you already feel a part of the adventure, rather than having to evolve or having to become friends with them in your own way. Which I think it's an interesting way of doing it. I could be completely off the mark, but that's what it feels like to me.
It's funny. Do you remember the first time we heard Owen before we knew what Owen was? We like I
Yes.
remember I distinctly said it was an AI, and I thought it was a British AI. And of course, then we were brought to terms, of course, to actually meet the Owen character before I think just before Gamescom. So yeah, you're right. I always thought there'd be some kind of sort of AI companion, but I guess if you go back to that conversation about Anthem being this ragtag bunch of freelancers with kind of misfit technology and sort of bumming it, so to speak, with whatever they've got. Maybe that conversation to AI, it makes sense that it's not there. Like that, they're too busy trying to just actually make a damn mechanical suit work for them to worry about having an AI hologram floating around their shoulders.
Yeah, yeah. And we don't even know if the technology allows for that,
Yeah.
right? That's the thing. Because, in some ways we're quite advanced as freelancers and a civilization. In other ways we seem quite backwards, or the technology tree is missing a spire, right? So, yeah, we'll see.
Indeed, indeed, and I think when Terabay was talking in that interview, he made reference to a few other points in there. In particular, he talked about the capture. So he mentioned that, which was good. It's good to see some insights. It's probably the first public insight that we see to the actor's involvement. Not many, at least to my knowledge, other actors that have been used or been announced in mocap have talked about it. And he particularly talks about that. The eyes, the lips, and the conversation is him.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But as we know, there's a separate actor that's actually the model for the character. And I remember having that strange, I guess, contradiction back when he was hosting when Nick was hosting the PAX panel, when you kept going on about what a good-looking character he was, and I kept thinking at the time, but it's actually not Nick. The irony of this is the model's actually not Nick at all. So,
Yeah.
I guess it's the voice that we're looking at, the reactions and the eye movements. That's all Nick's mocap, but it's just being transplanted onto a model, another actor.
Face. Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating though? Because you would think that they just use his face. Why? But
you would, wouldn't you?
It's interesting.
But no, I wonder what it was. Or yeah, you will probably not know, but yeah, I wonder if maybe Nick was brought in after the character was already modelled.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they started with that and brought the voice in later.
Yeah.
It just sounds like more work, doesn't it? Like surely if you're mocapping to an actor, you the implication is that you're going to scan the face and maybe I'm overcomplicating things.
Yeah, so it's interesting, isn't it? He's like, and it must be slightly surreal where you're looking at a character that is your voice. It has your mannerisms, your eye movement, your your nuances and intricacies around the facial movements, but your actual face is someone else's.
Yeah,
I'm sort of thinking of like John Travolta and Nicolas Cage in Face Off.
Oh yes, oh that movie. I don't want to revisit that movie.
But you know what I mean, right? It's like everything about you is there, but it's not you that you're looking at. It does seem like a bit of a perpetual nightmare.
And the last point there is that he gets grumpy about certain things. He's very passionate, can go up and down, but it doesn't come from a place of malice. The times when you see him kind of quiet is because something has happened, and this is abnormal. This is not where he is in his element because he's not a quiet guy. So you think there might be some demons in the closet that are going to come out here? Is that kind of what you're alluding to before?
I hope so. Yeah, I think so. We do so maybe some drug addictions or some alcohol problems. Something that's really going to for us to and everybody knows in the way you build characters up and the way that you build some type of empathy towards a character is to show their weaknesses. Right? You don't always trust or believe in someone that is always right and always up front and always cocky, confident. You always fall in love with someone, or you believe in someone when you believe in their most vulnerable state. So I'm hoping that there are some real trials and tribulations through our story arc with him, and the same with some of the other characters that are part of our forward operating base and all that stuff. So I'm hoping there are moments in time where we do actually get to experience those.
Yeah, we alluded to that probably some time back when we were talking when we first found out about the Dominion. If you remember, we had a chat about what would we like to see from Dominion, and are they going to be the characters? Because we suspect that the Scar are kind of tools for the world essentially.
Yes.
But are essentially not cattle, for lack of a better word, but animals that can be guided, manipulated, and bribed in order to achieve a certain outcome. Where the Dominion seem like maybe there's something more to them, but is there a grey area behind what they're on about?
Well, I keep going back onto. I've always remember there's this one video that I think Mike Gamble did, and it was part of the post E3 stuff, and he was talking about the Dominion as they're just an opposing force, right? They're the opposing force. However, they will have values and they will have credences and stuff but you will have an affinity towards. You will actually, there will be points in time where you question, are you on the right side of whatever the political system is? And that's always where a good villain sits. I think an outright terrorist you will always hate and you will always not like, right? But that's a really poor villain. Yeah, it's when you're in that absolute. It's an easy thing to hate and it's an easy thing to write against. But when you have a villain that politically actually sits in a very grey area, and you have belief in and you actually start to believe, I agree with the way that with what they're doing. I don't agree with how they're doing it or the way that they're going about it, but I do actually understand and have some empathy towards what they're trying to achieve. That's when your villain writing is what you really want, right? That's where you have that belief that actually I'm going to take a decision against this, but it's actually hard for me to do that. So, and that's what Mike Gamble alluded to, that's how they've written the Dominion to be. And I pray that is the truth.
Yeah. I like that. And you've kind of, I guess, nailed what BioWare do very, very well. There's many decisions during Mass Effect, even in KOTOR, that you would make and second guess, like before you hit commit, you really wanted to think about what will the consequences be. And if you remember in Mass Effect 1, you'd never really thought about the consequences for the second game because at the time there wasn't really a second game.
Yeah.
And then they kind of told you at the beginning of ME2 before they launched it, oh, by the way, some decisions you made in that game are going to come. You're like, what? No! Everyone went back to replay, not if they hadn't already, but to replay more games so that they could bring across that main character, or at least some of the decisions they'd made.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. It'd be amazing to see, right? If we, Tarsis is our world, right? That's not our world, it's our story. So it would be interesting to see, we make decisions within conversation trees or within Tarsis during, what we'll call phase 1, yeah? So vanilla launch. But we don't see any ramifications for those. But then when, say, phase 2 or whatever, year 2 comes out, then we see ramifications for those decisions and we're reminded of those decisions. Would be very cool. I think if there was, do you know what I mean? You're playing the long game in the story, right? And you actually then kick yourself. Right. You're like, why did I make that choice then? It seemed like a good decision, but I wasn't thinking far enough ahead. Right. Because they want to create that. They want to create that longevity in the story, right? They want to create the world. Yeah. It's always going to be Anthem. Yeah, it'd be pretty cool if they had those. They might do, they might not. But if they're talking about an evolving world that is persistent for many years, then seeing stuff like that would be amazing.
I like that you went there. I in this year and a bit, I honestly had not thought of that kind of conversation because for me, the older game was always going to be the older game, as in strongholds and future raid-like opportunities and dailies and weeklies and challenges and environmental tweaks, etc. But of course, the idea that the campaign can become, as you say, over time, there can still be more content added to that story that can challenge you and question your previous decisions, but they can do it dynamically now. They could never do that in Mass Effect.
No,
it had to be a DLC.
I think it's been playing on me, this whole thing where they're called real-time storytelling. And I've not heard that use of terminology. And when I think about real-time to myself, I think about my actions that I make today aren't necessarily going to affect me until later on in life, right? But I will go through a series of events, I'll do stuff, and then it will come back and haunt me. So it'll be interesting to see if they did do that. Yeah, it'd be fascinating.
Yeah, interesting to see. Yeah, like wow, I hadn't really thought of it like that because to me that was sort of, traditional MMO light activities that I was expecting, but you're absolutely correct, and that whether that be javelins, stories, factions, worlds, new forts. I mean, we talked about this at the beginning. That remember we thought way back when that at launch there'd be probably multiple forts, and Fort Tarsus was just one of many. And I guess it almost becomes a bit like, do you remember the TV series Lost? Like this mystery could start to unfold, and they could ham the crap out of that over months and beyond, to really make you think, okay, what else is there? What else is there to discover? And what other things can we see?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as there's no mist. I don't want no black mist.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and stop at season 4. Well, not Anthem, but we've lost. God. I dedicated a lot of time to that show. And by the end of it, I had no idea what. And I don't think JJ knew what was going on either by that point.
No. I gave up after season 5.
Yeah, it was pretty. It got a bit silly after that, but it was always a bit silly. But it was just enough to conceal it from you to be silly. Anyway, that's exciting stuff. But other things that have been going on in the world of Anthem have been some rather soft and humorous tweets coming out of the Twitter sphere from Mike Gamble, and of course Mike, in terms of his producing of the Anthem game, has been giving out some love. You might have noticed a binary we posted in a couple of tweets that you might have a look at. I think the first one was a nice shout out to Ben Irvington.
Yep. I'm just trying to find out where that is in the.
It's cool.
Dara's.
I had it. Next to Dara's.
Oh yeah, sorry, there it is. Sorry, I was paged out and I missed that. So Mike Gamble has been sharing on regarding my daily skill level. It's obvious that the team has done an incredible job making each of these javelins feel unique and completely badass in their own way. Nice, Ben Irving crew. It's an amazing shout out.
It was nice. And I think that, along with the second that came out, which was so Mike said every day more and more the world and characters in Anthem come to life in amazing ways, in no small part thanks to Cab Livingston, of course, in terms of her voice production and audio studio production, and all the work that her and the team do for great video and performance direction.
I think it's amazing. I think it's nice to see them obviously giving themselves a pat on the back, and they've probably been having what they call those Anthem moments in their studios where they're seeing the final productions of things come together. So it's a nice little call out.
It was, and they've been making reference, of course, to Anthem moments since the PAX West panel, and I've noticed now that as they're tweeting, a lot of the BioWare team are putting hashtag Anthem moments. Yeah. So they're trying to start something, at least internally, and now I've noticed a few of the community actually now using that. So they'll say, in this you talked about this, Mark, what is your Anthem moment of blah blah blah. Yeah. So I like that. Maybe it'll become more of a thing. We'll find out. And of course, the other things that Mike tweeted, 3 pictures of helicopters. I'm not sure. Did you see those?
No, I didn't see that. No, I didn't see those.
And essentially his images of these helicopters were. I presume that Mike might be interested in helicopters in some way or shape or form, but he was just using helicopters as a bit of a metaphor for how he was going during the day when he was playing around with some of the javelins, and yeah, his picture for the interceptor equivalent was actually a helicopter flying upside down on the ground crashed. So it sounds like he's been having some woes handling the mechanics of interceptor, which is interesting. Does that allude to its difficulty? Does it allude to its nimbleness? And I don't know. I'm not sure what the joke in particular is about, but I suspect there's something to it.
Oh, it's just yeah. I think it's more of an inside joke than one we'll ever fucking figure out.
It might very well be, or perhaps they're still fine tuning it. We know they've been fine tuning Inti for a while, so it's quite possible that. Well, we know they're fine tuning all of it, of course.
Is that what we're going with now? Inti? Is that the abbreviation to the interceptor now? We're just going to start calling them Inti.
Well, it's that or Ninja.
No, I like that. Inti. Yeah.
Yeah. We've been talking about Inties in the Discords quite a lot, and of course, it wouldn't be an AnthemCast capture of the day if, of course, we didn't talk to the one and only segment, Dara's Diaries. No doubt, Mike Dara has been busy answering questions, and in some cases answering some a little bit sort of snide questions as well. So it might be I guess a pause to just remind people that being a douchebag to the devs is not really going to get you very far. It doesn't work very well. So there was a couple people that kind of said, I'm not going to name names, but it was like, I've asked this question 5 or 6 times. You know, I never have to ask twice before. And why am I being ignored? Do you have plans for a novel? And you're just like, what?
But what I don't understand is it hasn't Dark Donkey or whatever it's called. Who are they called? Dark Horses.
Yes,
they're doing a comic.
They are.
This guy is clearly a fucking moron and just not fucking paying attention.
Good old Gaz trying to be politically correct, and good old Binary just going straight for the jugular.
No, it's absolute tour.
Love you, my friend. And of course, yes, Dark Horse Comics. Now they didn't set a date for that, did they? If I recall, I think they just said later
2019.
in the year.
They said 2019.
Yeah. In fact, no, wasn't there?
Because they're also doing a Division Dark novel too. They're doing a Division one. Yeah. You what, mate?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll buy that.
Yeah. They're doing a Division one as well. I don't know where. Yeah, the Dark Horses seem to have. They've just employed a bunch of people that can now write video game comics, but
I think they had a date though. Oh no, that's right. They had it. So if you recall, there's 2 books. There's the Art of Anthem and the Anthem comic book. The Art of Anthem is going for sale on February 26th, so a few days after launch. But the comic has not been confirmed. So I would think, like, if I was Dark Horse and I don't know, if I was Dark Horse and Byra, I'd be dropping that like January. You know,
okay, yeah,
as part of the hype. If it's pre-story stuff, it could be really interesting. You know.
Oh yeah, it could be the Javelin Wars. Yeah. Correct.
They did it with Mass Effect. I think Mass Effect 3 came with it was bundled with a comic. I think the limited edition came with a comic book, and that comic book was some insights, if I recall, into I think it was the Asari. No, there was a bit about Thane, and a little bit about the Asari and a few others. So they've done it before, and it wouldn't be misguided to have a bit of a teaser. It's good for ramping up some brand. Hell, even by the way, give it to me for Christmas, man. I'd take it in December. Yeah, just something to read. But that Art of Anthem book would be dangerous to drop too soon, because a lot of spoilers can come from those art books. Historically, I've noticed. So they've always got to be careful with those books. They often put sometimes they put tidbits that are in there that aren't really planned for people to even look at before, touching the campaign.
But no, Adam Sinner's pretty right though. I wouldn't mind seeing, a book around the breakup of the Legion of Dawn, like the history to that, or the actual wars themselves. Yeah, that'd be sweet. That'd be really good.
That'd be nice, and that would be a nice compliment to the pre-order people, like because they're going to have that opportunity to jump around to that armor. Let's see what the history is behind that. So that's like a good. I like that. Nice call out. But anyway, interesting things. But yeah, I just thought I'd call that out because I thought that was very strange, and that's the kind of stuff that would, if I was a developer, you would turn off pretty quickly. If you,
well, he answered it. So
he did, didn't he? Yes. After all that, anyway. But there was a question here about idle animations, and so it's a great question.
I don't know what the fuck that means. What's an idle animation? It's not an emote. What is it?
No, well, an animation is just when you
the guy's just standing there rocking, or
correct.
Like, starts looking at the bottom of his shoe, or
yeah, when you let the character sit and do its thing, like you go to the toilet and you come back, you're like, oh, that's pretty funny.
But this guy's talking about like being able to equip idle animations.
Yeah, I think the suggestion is that can you just have something set up so you can pick a template of idle animations at one point. But
what game can you do that now?
Yeah, I couldn't think of one. I couldn't name one.
What the fuck? What's this dude gonna do? Just sit there for 10 minutes watching his like idle animations rock through? Dude, play the fucking game, man! Like, what's wrong with you?
No, he's not gonna play. This is Idle Game Simulator 2019.
I'm gonna pay $80 and I'm gonna load into my game and I'm gonna sit there for 10 minutes watching my idle animations while I toss myself off. Yeah, brilliant.
You are brutal tonight.
For fuck's sake. I would have been like, yeah, dude.
I have to admit though, I wouldn't care for multiple versions, but I do often. I remember, is it the Batman? I think Batman Arkham Asylum. I think those sort of games. Obviously, Spider-Man has some great ones. So I get the idea of the excitement for it when you come back because you've put the controller down. But as you say, it's probably not high priority in terms of what we want out of the game. But anyway.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Question inbound was, I'm guessing it's not viable, though, to have a Storm tank for the team. Of course, the answer was the Colossus has some explicit aggro control, but anyone can tank in theory. Storm? Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to do that. Okay, so anyone can do it in theory, but yet there's a struggle there with Storm.
Yeah. I quite like that answer. That was pretty good. It's a pretty good answer, and it was actually quite honest. So,
very honest.
Storm is clearly a glass cannon, right? So there's clearly roles being set out, right? So the Ranger is pretty versatile. The Colossus is just straight up tank. Interceptor, we don't really know too much, apart from they're a bit of a Kawasaki ninja, whip in, whip out, lots of gadgets, that type of stuff. And then you've got the Storm, which is like your mage. But in theory, they are saying that there is enough theory and enough weapon modifications, and there's enough stuff that you can do to make yourself some level of tank. But I don't think you're ever going to reach the tankiness of what a Colossus will do. Right? You could probably give yourself more survivability. But it's nice to know that they are trying to figure out how to be able to do it.
Yeah. It wouldn't have occurred to me to run through solo with Storm, but no. It sounds like if it floats your boat and you can get the right gear, I think you might be able to do just that. Maybe not through Strongholds. We're gonna need 4 players for that, I think.
You're gonna need 4 players. Yeah. If anyone else asks for 10 or 12 or 8 or 14, and they only see the same answer, it's 4 players.
Actually, that question is almost. That question has become a lot like the are we going to get rid of the damage numbers or are we going to change the size, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's like a 4-year-old in the back of the car going, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Yeah, it's 4 players, mate. Come on.
Although, to be fair, there are plenty of people. I've noticed, a lot of that information you spout and we talk about on Twitter and the Discord, at Anthem Universe or at discord.anthemuniverse.com, and we have those conversations. But again, like if you go to the Reddit, for example, there's still a lot of people that just aren't. They don't have all the capacity to keep up with everything. They haven't followed or the developers, etc.
I
So
get
for
that.
those guys, those questions are actually very useful, and I'm seeing more of that, of course, from mainly from the forums, from the BS, of course, our friends over at the BSN forums, and of course on the Reddit for Anthem. So yeah, there's still plenty more to know and plenty more to share. So feel free to reach out
Yeah,
and
I
share
think
the love.
it's yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I'm being overly harsh when I'm saying
Oh yeah.
they're building around 4 players, right? I think when you start playing Division now has 8 players for the raids, right? And they're calling it raids in Division 2, which is 2 teams of 4, and obviously Destiny as well, right? So that stacks up to 6. So I suppose they're asking for. It would be nice to know that if you're going to enter into this realm, that
Mm,
strongholds, okay, I understand, are the end elder game or the end game hard
mm,
content,
mm, mm.
but every other game in its genre has a next level where you are needing to bring in 2 teams of people or bring in a larger amount of people to try and tackle. So I can see maybe there's even a bit of skepticism, which is why people are still asking that question.
Mm. Fair play. Fair play. And of course, other things that we've seen in that space. A good old question about matchmaking. Are there settings for matchmaking in Anthem? So, if you want to play with a certain type of player, such as wanting to play with the Colossus, if you're a Storm and you need a tank. Now, I think that's probably against the whole philosophy of what BioWare has been trying to drive at since the beginning.
Uh, I don't. Yeah, yeah, I think so because the whole idea is that matchmaking, I'm guessing, is done against
Mm,
the freelancer because you have an array of javelins that you should be able to swap in and out of.
mm,
Which sort of
absolutely.
so it sort of doesn't really make sense that you're looking for just colossi because you
Mm.
should all have colossuses or you should all have storms. It's just about how well you've mid maxed those.
I
Um,
suppose that would just be a preference, and so someone sort of like being just stagnant and saying, "Look, I am going to be Storm, and I need a Colossus." Yeah, I don't think that if the conversation goes that way, that's exactly what Bioware don't want. They want
right.
to have this idea that you can, as you say, you can adapt and go
Yeah,
into
yeah.
what you need
It's
to
the
go into.
same as, and I think that particular player is probably what is the problem with a lot of looter shooters, in that
Mm,
you get it in Destiny, right? You want to go and do a raid, and the raid team will kick you because you don't have a sleeper simulant, or
mm,
you don't have a certain weapon that everybody wants to use, so you can just go and battle out the boss.
mhm.
Or in Division was, you didn't have a high enough gear score, right? They were like, no, you're not coming in. You don't have a high enough gear score. So I'm sort of hoping that that's not that type of situation. I think we don't want
Yeah,
to go down that road. But unfortunately,
no,
in multiplayer games, you will always have that. But I hope. But Bioware gamers who like enjoy the Bioware world and universes they create are a slightly different breed to your
yeah.
general Call of Duty players. And
Although as they talked about, of course, as we said before, with Stronghold being a full player journey, the hope is that it's not significantly reliant on just having those 4 individual archetypes, and that, as you say, what will then start to happen is that our LFG rooms, like the Looking for Games rooms in our Discord, will basically be people going, "Yo, need a player, Colossus only. Don't waste my time." You're like, "What? Like you don't want here? You don't want that's it's anti the conversation." When you're getting people being that antsy and specific, um, it makes sense if you're trying to achieve a common goal. And of course, each character has their own impact on that raid or that event. But
yeah,
yeah, as you say, if we can all change out, let's move with it. So the answer, of course, we didn't actually answer the question, but the answer was it's not planned, and they don't want to exclude. So I suspect you're probably not going to see that. And of course, the answer is we'll try to balance parties. So there may be, of course, that element of auto balancing, which they certainly can do if they need to for, say, like a stronghold or something like that.
yeah. Well, I'm hoping there's some level of intelligence to matchmaking, like
Mm,
yeah, yeah. And I hope it starts with, traditionally it'll always start with language and location. So whatever your
yeah.
country is, language, and then your location server wise, and then hopefully it will then look at what your level is, and then it'd be
Mm.
nice to do that. But we'll see.
Absolutely. Next one was any chance of more ultimates in the future? And I think they've talked a lot about this. Of course, that ultimates you'll have one at launch. They haven't got any plans for having more than one at launch. But they did mention here that you can change loadouts, weapons, and gear at Fort Tarsus or in the Strider, and that the ultimate will be fixed at launch. So there'll be one fixed ultimate that you'll use. But of course, that's not discounting the future. So if you're one who wants that customizability, I suspect it will come, just not quite in February.
Yeah, it depends how many people scream that they want a different ultimate. Really, I think.
Yeah. Let's just get the game. It's good. We'll play the game. I'm good with one for now. But someone called out. For every second tweet to Mark, there's another. Oh, hi, Mark. God bless. Will most missions be capped at 4 players, or will there be stronghold direct? Oh,
yeah, it's the 4 players one. Skip.
I'll skip that one for obvious reasons that we've just covered. But a good question. Also, will players be able to save particular gear? Now, this question is interesting. So, will players be able to save particular gear loadouts per javelin, for example, long range, fit out, etc., and that can be swapped out or quickly to fit different combat situations? And the answer was yes.
Yes. So you can't. So this is to clarify this though. This is my assumption based on that answer and what I know of other things. So you can't swap your javelin out mid-mission, right? Mm-hmm. You have to go back to Tarsus or you have to go back to your Strider. However, you can swap your loadout of your javelin mid-flight. So you can equip a different weapon. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, what you're saying, so if the loadout's pre-saved, so you've got like a saved loadout, you're saying can you switch to that without returning back to the Strider or Tarsus? Yes.
Is that what he's saying there?
Oh, is that what he's? Sorry, that's what he's asking.
Is that what he's? No. I think that's what he's asking.
I don't think he's
can
necessarily
that be swapped
talking
out quickly to different combat situations? Well, different combat situations you're going to get in the same mission, right?
Well, it's 2 questions. The first question is, will players be able to save particular gear loadouts per javelin? So that's question 1, which the answer is yes. There'll be like a loadout. So what do you think? There'll be like a top 3? Like you just have 3 slots of saved, something like that. And the second question is, can they be swapped out quickly to fit different combat situations? So I don't know about the second one. I'm not. I mean, that would be ideal. I'm not sure if that's the case though. But you're thinking probably yes.
I'm thinking yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Because naturally, you're only ever asked that second question in about a 2-question answer.
Yeah, that's true. Fair call. Question: what guns can the Colossus not use? That's a good question. A bit creative. I like that.
Pistols.
And of course,
pistols.
Yeah, Colossus holding a pistol just wouldn't work, would it? I mean, wait. What if it was like a Megatron, like the 1980s Megatron? You know, the P-34 Walter, whatever that is.
Wow.
That'll work.
That could work. Yeah.
That'll work. And then can transform into Megatron. Megatron appearance in 1980s Megatron, like the good Megatron in Anthem. Please. Yes. Crossover. Yes. Just delete everything that Michael Bay built. Anyway, what do we go next? Next on the agenda was I just had a quick question, which it is a quick question because it is on the Twitters. The javelins appear to have 2 sets of knees, a normal set and a reverse set. Was there a reason for the javelins to be designed this way? The answer is
yes.
Yes.
2 sets of knees.
Well, it's relating to that. If you recall that positioning of the joints that we've talked about in the past.
Yeah, but just go look at a dog's legs, right? They're actually walking on their knuckles, right? Their ankle is like further up, and then you got it. Yeah, like any animal.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. But yeah, and we've seen that the practicality of that with the costumes, and of course the previous conversations that we've had with some of the actors from E3 and Gamescom. in terms of what those suits were like to be in, and that was the main point, wasn't it? That the pilot,
Oh, yeah.
just like in the game, really their feet are really stopping at the knee joint. So there's some kind of hydraulics, probably more hydraulics than computer controlled activity that's going on from the foot to the base.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Yes. Now, this is an interesting one. So there's a bit of a thread history behind this tweet, but this is sort of, I guess, to give you some positioning. So it said, yeah, I'm aware of the damage mitigation abilities. I was confused as I thought the actives were all displayed on screen like the Colossus, such as the ground and pound, which makes it more confusing. So the context for this was in regards to mitigation. So they're talking about skills that will, or weaponry or activities that will revolve mitigation. And Mark's answer was that each javelin has a form of damage mitigation, such as the dodge for the ranger. And we've seen that in flight, right? We saw that in flight back at Gamescom.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah, we saw and the shield as well for the
E3.
Colossus, yeah.
The first time the Ranger took on the Ash Titan at E3 2018, we saw the joke became, was it the barrel roll from Starwing?
That's right, yeah.
Or Star Fox, whatever part of the world you're in. I played Starwing when I was a kid, but in most regions, I think in the US it was Star Fox, or Lilac Wars, I think in Europe, wasn't it? Anyway, so you've got the Ranger who's got the Avoidant, and it says no gear slots are not assignable for these variations, not currently. There's quite a bit of animation involved in representing them. Okay, so in this case, you're not assigning those maneuvers to gear slots, and it's purely just a javelin specific activity.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I'm going to jump that one. That wasn't very exciting. Ooh, will you be able to join different factions, such as the Arcanists?
Yeah, that would have been cool, but that's never going to happen. You're a freelancer.
Yeah.
Oh, and he actually straight out answered no. There you go.
Yeah.
That would be brilliant. I guess so, but they're not.
That could be like post-launch content, perhaps.
It could be like faction rallies, like in Destiny, maybe, right? Where you
that's a good point.
You've got the other factions, you just go and do shit for them for a month.
But as you say, by and large, you are a freelancer, and that's sort of where that sits.
Yeah.
Anyhow, any news or timeline for when you can discuss social features of Anthem, things such as clan support? And Mark answered, "I'd like to be able to show it before we talk about it. It's not in a Shuwap." I'm gonna pronounce that again. Shuwapki. It's not in a Shuwapki state at the moment. Of course, the word is showable, but Shuwapki is a wonderful typo, and basically, it basically caused about 40 or 50 people replying, asking what Shuwapki meant, like it was some sort of internal development.
Yeah.
I love a good Shuwapki. But I mean, this is important. This idea of the social dynamics, the clan support. So it's early stages. Is this something that I think we're excited about with the AU community?
I think there is much call within the AU community to have something like this, and they have said there is clan support. They just can't show it right now. So it'll just be interesting to see how that will affect matchmaking, or whether and to what level that it's actually, what impact on the game is it going to have apart from an affiliation. So are we going to get progression from it? Is there going to be weekly or daily activities that we have to complete to increase plan levels? What I think it's just they're not ready to share about it. We're not. We know it's coming. We just don't know how much of it and how much of an impact to the game it will make.
Yeah, I think, as you say, I love the idea that it's just sort of baked in. If they can bake this in from launch, it's just going to be it's just better than perhaps sort of third party applications or things trying to I guess reinvent the wheel or circumvent things or
Absolutely.
try and use APIs to try to connect into the game and try if they can do it from their end and create something that is engaging,
Yeah.
they'll prevent anyone having to go about that the awkward way, and they'll also drive engagement back into the game itself. If you're constantly driving social interactivity, you're constantly increasing engagement, you're constantly increasing player numbers, and therefore it's obvious, isn't it? I mean, it writes itself.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that point.
Like I
Utterly,
think that was
agree.
like we had that with Division, with our previous work and other activities we've done with Division, and I think if there was something internal, it would have kept a lot of those things there. But it was up to communities like the ones we were working on and other things to really drive excitement and engagement and have people want to come back and meet new players and join up, etc., etc.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Spot on.
But anyway, this is probably one of the last couple of questions. When this one was interesting, and it was said, "Hello, Mark. Will the difficulty system be anything like Diablo?" And we do know that, of course, John Warner is a big Diablo fan and has spoken a lot about that in the past, of how some comparisons can be made to Diablo. And the question was, once you reach the hardest difficulty, for example, does it escalate in tiers, e.g., easy, normal, hard, expert, then expert 2, expert 3, and so on? And the answer was yes. And I know deep inside, a little binary num was getting happy with that.
I was. I'd be interested. So he said yes, which is fascinating. I would like to challenge how that is going to work with things like matchmaking, balancing, and other areas. Like it works in Diablo because you select your you select how hard you want it at the beginning, and then you select your tiers of torment, right? That you want to experience during that dungeon, right? As far as I can see, is Anthem isn't a dungeon or procedurally generated dungeon environment, right? Everything. So I would like to understand how that works. That is it. That's actually a really powerful tweet, and it excites me greatly. But it also worries me because how am I going to matchmake with people who aren't in the same tier? Am I in expert 3? Like, am I going to matchmake with people in expert 1? And how is that going to be balanced? Yeah. Or is my matchmaking limited because I'm in like playing in the top tier with a level of torment 72 or whatever? So I just like that. That is a very cool thing to say yes to, but they need to clarify that very very quickly.
Are you saying that there's like a dichotomy, almost not dichotomy, more like a contradiction in terms of their original comments? So if you recall, way back when was it like a level 1 storm joined a bunch of level 30s,
Exactly.
and they talked about the ease of that and how you can just connect, plug and play, drop in, drop out.
Yeah, exactly.
And is that what you're referring to? Is that you think that this kind of forebodes some concerns about how that could be possible?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hit the nail on the head. Yeah, you can't have someone who's been playing on easy all of a sudden going to an expert 3, and then you go into expert 3, and then you're hitting a Diablo sense, and then go and hit torment levels at like level 70 and above. That's just not going to happen. You get breathed on by an NPC and you'll die. So it's yeah, I'd like to understand a little bit more clarity around that decision or that question, definitely.
And it's not like you can just isolate that to the single player campaign, because this is a conversation about Elder Game and beyond. Like it's not a simple division like that.
No.
We'd be well and truly done with the campaign elements, and we'd be onto our dailies and our weeklies and our strongholds by then, by far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, some good chats about some of those elements, and of course, Alan Sinner actually mentioned in there. He was talking that Mike Gamble had made reference to the veteran difficulty in a tweet recently. So I do recall that tweet. So thanks for reminding us of that point It's a good point. And it said, what was it? There we go. At the end of a four-player stronghold. Oh, that's right. So Mike was currently at the end of a four-player stronghold on vet difficulty. He was Storm, and our good friend Peter Wanamanuik was a Colossus. And he mentioned we barely survived due to the lucky use of Storm's redacted ultimate move. Oh man, that is such a tease, that tweet. That's not fair. They can't tweet stuff like that. Well, we'll expect to hear more tweets like that, I guess. They're really starting to talk about gameplay and talk about their moments publicly now, which is exciting.
Yeah, it's great.
Interesting times. Anyway, look, I'm going to wrap this puppy up here for now. We've got plenty more conversations to come and a very special interview amongst many lined up over the coming weeks. So do make sure you do keep it locked to Anthem Universe. And Binary, how can they do that, good sir?
So yes, you can follow us so if you're watching us on Twitch for the first time, thank you very much for joining. I hope you enjoyed the show. You can find us at Anthem Universe on Twitter. You can find us at www.anthemuniverse.com, where you can sort of find how to join into the Discord, which you can go to discord.anthemuniverse.com. And then if you also, this is the AnthemCast podcast. We've only recently started broadcasting live out on Twitch, but you can also find the audio version on pretty much every podcast service going in this universe.
And yourself?
And you can find me. Just put Binary Num into any games console, any Steam, any platform, YouTube, Twitter, and you will find me.
Does Binary Dumb work? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Only in your wife's phone.
Oh, Jesus. Ouch. Oh, you are on fire tonight, my friend. I got nothing. But I do have plenty for more Anthem gossip and conversations. So, as Binary mentioned, do check out the conversations in the discord.anthemuniverse.com. You can hit me at Ogaz, that's at OH_GAZ, and of course, as a collective at Anthem Universe. We're going to leave it there, but remember to keep it around, keep it locked, more stuff to come soon. And of course, Javelins, freelancers, we will see you next.
Over the wall.